you can always look for a great fight at a pub out here. You don't even have to say it. Always says no in the beginning. No. Okay.
Representing for the gangsters all across the world. Still hitting them corners in them lolos.
A tall, lean man with that laid-back walk, a voice smoother than smoke, and a vibe that makes the whole world nod. That's Snoop Dogg, the living legend of hip-hop. Everyone knows his name the second they hear it. He's not just a rapper, he's an American icon.
It was opportunity to get things that you wanted. So people took those things that they wanted and stopped the violence.
The heartbeat of the West Coast, and a giant shadow no artist dares to step into. But behind the cameras and that chill smile hides a truth most people can't even imagine. Just a few years after reaching the top, Snoop's world flipped upside down. Chaos hit hard, and Hollywood shook with it. Friends started drifting away one after another. Those late-night calls at 3 a.m. brought nothing but bad news.
But never did you hear the news mention, well, there was no violence today or this day. But as soon as the looting and stuff stopped, the news jumped right back on. Somebody got killed in a drive-by because they like negativity. They don't like bringing the real side.
The weight on his mind grew heavy, the kind no doctor could fix. The man who once made the world laugh, dance, and vibe to every bar was now facing a deep, quiet loneliness that fame couldn't hide. So how did America's meme king become trapped in such heartbreaking storms? Are you ready to uncover Snoop Dogg's darkest secrets? From the rough corners of Long Beach to the top of the world, this is the untold story of Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr., the man behind the legend. Born in 1971, right when California's streets were at their most dangerous, young Calvin grew up surrounded by struggle, where chances were slim and violence was a daily thing. He was the second of 3 brothers, raised in a home missing one thing every kid needs, a father figure. His dad left before Calvin was even 3 months old to fight in the Vietnam War and never came back.
That's who Snoop Doggy Dogg was.
Right.
I can't change that, but the person that made that song no longer exists, because this is the person now, the father, the husband, the grandfather, the football coach. This is who I am now.
For a moment, a stepfather entered the picture, bringing a bit of hope, but that ended fast after a heated argument tore the family apart again. In a world that could flip on him at any second, Calvin had only 2 things to hold on to: his mom and his music. Inside him lived 2 sides that couldn't be more different. On Sundays, there was Church Calvin, singing in the choir, playing the piano, selling candy, and delivering newspapers just to help his mom keep things afloat. But in school, by 6th grade, another side came alive.
Do you look back at some of your old lyrics, given the climate of what's happening today with women's empowerment, and be like, damn, that was kind of fucked up that I said that?
Nope, hell no, that was me. I love every motherfucking man. Fuck them hoes.
Man,
straight
stop,
up.
man.
Fuck a
Snoop,
bitch.
The Calvin who could rap like it was written in his DNA. His mom started calling him Snoopy because of his long face, chill nature, and playful attitude, just like the cartoon dog. Who could have guessed that this innocent nickname would become the name that forever changed hip-hop? But once he stepped out of the church doors, the streets told a different story. Long Beach wasn't soft. Every block belonged to someone, and danger was always close by. In a place where every corner felt like a battlefield, childhood didn't stand a chance. Kids in Long Beach couldn't afford to be innocent. They had to learn fast. And for Calvin, that meant picking up a whole new language, the language of survival.
A good month or 2 when the riots and the looting jumped off as far as the verdict. And what that was showing was, if you put opportunity out here, the violence will stop.
No matter how much he loved music, the streets had rules, and breaking them could mean the end. The brighter his musical spark shined, the more trouble seemed to follow. Before long, Broadus became part of the Rollin' 20 Crips, one of the most feared gangs on the east side. Not long after finishing school, he got caught with drugs and spent 6 months behind bars. Over the next few years, jail became a revolving door, pulling him in and spitting him out again and again. At one point, he was even locked up for being connected to the death of a rival gang member. A brutal reminder of how one bad choice could steal a young person's entire future. In that world, a single mistake could cost you your life and your dreams. Yet Snoop stood tall through it all, something almost unheard of in Long Beach. It was during those hard years behind bars that music became his escape route. Snoop started rapping for his cellmates just to kill time, but they saw something in him that he couldn't yet see himself. They told him straight, "You don't belong here, you gotta get out, you can't die in this place." Those words haunted him, echoing in his head for years. By the early 90s, a spark of hope finally showed up the way hip-hop loves to work, through rejection. Snoop and his close friend Warren G sent demo tapes to labels, but nobody cared. Every no cut deep and every lost tape felt like a door slamming shut right in front of them. Everything changed one wild night at a party. Warren G decided to play their demo tape for the noisy crowd, and right in the middle of the chaos, one man started nodding to every smooth, clever line. That man was Dr. Dre. He didn't just hear music, he heard the future. "This is the good stuff," Dre said with confidence. The funniest part? When Dre first called Snoop to invite him to the studio, Snoop thought it was a prank and hung up. Only after Dre called again did he realize it was the real deal. When Snoop finally walked into the studio in 1992 to record Deep Cover, everything shifted. Hip-hop would never be the same again. That track lit the spark, and soon Snoop became a vital part of the Chronic. The second his voice hit a beat, the sound changed. It was smoother, cooler, unmistakably West Coast. Then came Doggy Style, a cultural earthquake. Nearly 1 million copies sold in its first week, the fastest-selling debut to hit #1 on Billboard, and it went quadruple platinum within a year. The same kid who once ran from the cops in Long Beach now stood under the world's brightest lights, where fame glittered like gold. But with that success came shadows. In 1996, after being acquitted in a high-profile murder case, his name spread even deeper through the gang world. Yet, something inside him changed. Snoop didn't want to rule the streets, he wanted to rule the stage. So he walked away from the underworld and stepped into the spotlight for real. As the 2000s rolled in, Snoop kept evolving. From gangster rapper to devoted father, tech investor, TV personality, and even Martha Stewart's hilarious partner in crime on screen. He became the chill, lovable uncle everyone couldn't help but adore. Even legends can't escape life's hardest blows. And in 2024, Snoop Dogg faced heartbreak that no fame could protect him from. Tragedy hit not once, but twice, leaving pain so deep it tested every ounce of his strength. The world still called him the coolest man alive, like nothing could shake him. But that year proved even icons can break inside. It all started one quiet morning that turned into a nightmare. His daughter, Corey, suffered a severe stroke, something no one saw coming. The call came, the phone rang, and then silence. For most, it was just a sound. For Snoop, it felt like his whole world cracked open. This was the same daughter he once carried on his shoulders, the same little girl who used to call him Pops with a laugh that could light up a room. She had battled lupus since childhood, fighting through joint pain, skin flare-ups, and long, exhausting mornings. But a stroke, that was something no one was ready for. At the hospital, Snoop stayed calm on the outside, gripping her hand tightly like he could bring her back just through love alone. People saw him in dark sunglasses and a hoodie, standing still, but those shades weren't about style. They were hiding eyes red from endless sleepless nights. In the days after, he barely left her side. When he finally went home, he didn't rest. He went straight to Corey's room and stayed there, lights off, lost in quiet heartbreak. His family grew worried as he shut everyone out, barely eating or speaking. It was clear that behind the fame, the laughter, and the smooth voice was a father crushed by worry for his child, a man trying to stay strong when his heart felt like it was breaking apart. The man who had survived gangs, street wars, and even a murder trial was now breaking down like a child behind closed doors. Some nights, people could hear soft sobs echoing from his room, the sound of a heart too heavy to carry. He would collapse to the floor, clutching photos of Corey, whispering through tears that he wished he could take her pain himself. Facing danger had never scared him, but watching his daughter fight for her life was a kind of pain he'd never known before. Then, before he could even catch his breath, the second blow hit, and it hit hard. Just weeks later, his brother and closest friend, Bing Worthington, passed away suddenly. No warnings, no signs, just one phone call. Bing is gone, two simple words that shattered his world. To outsiders, Bing was just Snoop's business partner, a behind-the-scenes figure. But to Snoop, he was so much more, a piece of his past. His witness through every rough night, every near miss, every unspoken secret that never made it to the stage. Bing was the only person Snoop could be himself around. No fame, no swagger, no act, just real brotherhood. Losing him wasn't just losing family, it was losing the one person who truly knew every corner of his story. The world saw just a short post online, a black and white photo, a few words of thanks, but they didn't see the empty kitchen where Bing used to make coffee or the couch that still carried his scent. They didn't see the unanswered messages on Snoop's phone where the word delivered felt like a cruel echo of goodbye. For decades, Snoop had known loss, friends, colleagues, legends, but this time, it wasn't someone from the outside world. This time, death came for the people who shared his home and his heart. Nate Dogg was gone. DMX was gone. Snoop had carried loss after loss in his heart, but nothing hit like this. This time, the pain went straight through him, deep and raw. It wasn't just grief, it was heartbreak over the two people he had promised himself he'd protect forever. In just a few weeks, his whole world had crashed down around him. People think fame makes tragedy easier, that stars have teams to handle the pain, but fame doesn't protect anyone's heart. It only hides what's really going on. Behind the scenes, Snoop still had contracts to sign, shows to attend, fans to smile for. Hundreds of people depended on his image, so the Snoop Dogg brand had to stay strong, even when Calvin, the man underneath, was barely holding on. So he kept performing. On talk shows, he cracked jokes with Jimmy Kimmel and posed for pictures with fans, smiling beside Martha Stewart like everything was fine. But behind that famous grin, he felt completely drained. The lights on stage were blinding, but when he got home, all that glow faded into darkness. Some nights, he'd sit alone in his car, staring at Bing and Corey's names on his phone screen before quietly turning it off. There were nights he'd drive through Los Angeles with no destination, no music, and no one knowing where he was. Friends from his early rap days said they had never seen him so quiet. And it wasn't the calm kind of silence, it was the silence of someone lost for words, someone trying to keep breathing while the world felt heavier than ever. Two tragedies in a row tore open his deepest fears, losing his child and losing his brother, the two things he thought he could always keep safe. Those two losses cut deeper than anything gang life ever could. Fame couldn't fix it, and money couldn't save it. That pain didn't destroy him, but it woke something inside him. All the memories he had tried to bury for decades. It pulled him back to the boy he once was, a kid growing up without a father, surrounded by the chaos of Long Beach nights, always afraid that everyone he loved would eventually disappear. The scariest part wasn't the loss itself, it was the past coming back with just 2 phone calls. 2024 didn't just bring tragedy, it reopened old wounds that had never really healed. It dragged Calvin right back to the place he'd spent a lifetime trying to escape. Not the Long Beach on the map, but the one living in his mind. There, memories slept like beasts waiting to wake, and that year, they did. People only saw Snoop Dogg, the legend grieving his daughter's illness and his brother's death. But for Calvin Broadus, it felt like living his childhood all over again, losing family, losing safety, losing that fragile sense of peace. The fall of 2024 wasn't just another rough patch, it was a breaking point, the kind that makes even the strongest soul crumble inside. Fans always thought Snoop was untouchable, the man who'd survived bullets, courts, and street wars. What could possibly bring him down now? But life doesn't always hit where you expect. It hits where it hurts most. And for Snoop, that's family. In 2024, life took away what even crime and chaos couldn't, the people he loved most. That year's pain felt like a haunting replay of his own beginnings, a cruel echo of the boy who once learned that love always comes with loss. When Calvin was just 3 months old, his father walked out. No letter, no goodbye, not even a look back. That silence became the first wound, shaping his idea of what family meant in the harshest way possible. Growing up in Long Beach during the late 1980s, when the streets were some of the deadliest in California, Calvin got used to bad news hitting like clockwork. One day, someone was shot, the next, a friend got locked up, and by morning, another neighbor was gone. In Long Beach, pain didn't come one at a time. It came in waves, each one louder than the last. So when 2024 came crashing down, his mind didn't react like a man in his 50s. It went right back to that scared 17-year-old kid sitting in a rundown house, hearing yet again that someone he loved was gone. That same helpless feeling returned, raw and untouched by time. People love to say, time heals everything, but for scars like Calvin's, time doesn't heal. It just hides them until they bleed again. There's a truth Snoop rarely shares publicly, but those close to him already know it. For years, he's lived with the quiet fear that everyone he loves will eventually leave. That isn't just some celebrity stress, it's trauma from a childhood filled with loss and survival. In 2024, when his daughter's life hung by a thread and his brother's was suddenly gone, that fear came roaring back, bigger than ever. A ghost he thought he'd buried long ago. And while the world saw only Snoop Dogg, the smiling legend, the cool uncle of pop culture, behind the scenes, Calvin Broadus was reliving every shadow of his past, fighting battles that fame could never make disappear. The world knows him as the living meme, the chillest man in hip-hop. But when his family fell apart, nobody saw Calvin, the man still carrying years of hidden pain. Behind the fame was someone who had spent a lifetime fighting the same ghosts of abandonment that started when his father left. What broke him in 2024 wasn't just tragedy itself. It was the flood of memories that came with it. Seeing his daughter lying still in a hospital bed brought back the image of his mother crying the day his dad disappeared. Hearing about his brother's sudden passing reopened every memory of friends from the old days who never made it home. Each heartbreak stacked on top of the last like heavy chains tightening around his chest. Some fans wondered, Snoop survived so much. Gangs, trials, even street wars. How could this bring him down? But the answer is simple. On the streets, he learned how to fight. In the spotlight, he learned how to perform. But when it came to sickness and death, when it came to losing family, there were no rules, no defenses, no way to win. No fame can stop illness. No rhyme can bring back the dead. No amount of charm can fill the hole left by someone you love. Calvin had faced judges, bullets, and media storms, always standing tall. But standing in a hospital hallway, hearing the worst news of his life, every layer of Snoop Dogg fell away, leaving only the scared, heartbroken man underneath. That's the side the public never gets to see. The quiet collapse behind the cameras, the hidden chain reaction of pain that even legends can't escape. What you survive in the past doesn't make you immune to pain, it just teaches you a different kind of pain. Snoop had learned how to handle the streets, the gunfire, and the chaos of living fast, but when it came to family, that's where he had no armor at all. That's where Calvin stood exposed, vulnerable, and raw. So when the wave of losses hit in 2024, it pulled every buried memory straight to the surface. He felt that same ache of watching everything important slip right through his fingers. A feeling he'd hidden deep for over 30 years suddenly came back like it never left. One longtime fan once said, Snoop never really forgot Long Beach. He just learned how to live with it. And 2024 was the year Long Beach came knocking again, demanding a price. For most people, childhood is just a memory. But for Calvin, childhood is a locked room he escaped from, yet it never stopped chasing him. And when his daughter's health collapsed and his brother passed, that room swung wide open. No light, no escape, just that familiar feeling of loss he thought he had outrun forever. But trauma has its own way of remembering. It knows exactly when to return. That's why fans noticed something different. The jokes stopped. The live streams went quiet. The usual Uncle Snoop energy that made everyone smile faded away, because at that moment, it wasn't Snoop Dogg standing before the world. It was Calvin Broadus, the man behind the name, reliving the pain he'd spent half a lifetime trying to forget. And what people didn't see was that this wasn't just sadness, it was the start of a deeper fight within himself. This is the battle between Snoop Dogg, the legend, and Calvin Broadus, the man still carrying scars. Every fan has felt that strange paradox. The bigger Snoop gets, the cooler he becomes, the more the world loves him, the less he's allowed to show real pain. Somewhere along the line, he stopped being just a person. He became a brand, a walking symbol of hip-hop's smile, swagger, and survival. America sees him as the uncle of rap, the man who can make any room burst out laughing with just one smooth line. But what most people don't see is that every real emotion, every moment of sadness or exhaustion has to be locked away like it's something forbidden. Sponsors only want the version of Snoop who's always chill, the guy floating through life with a grin and a cloud of calm, untouched by stress or loss. TV shows expect the quick-witted jokester who never misses a punchline. Commercial deals rely on the always relaxed icon whose voice alone makes everything sound all good. The market doesn't have space for tears, it only sells smiles, and in that world being sad can cost millions. If he ever showed cracks, if he let the exhaustion or heartbreak slip through, contracts could be canceled, projects paused, brands would start asking, can Snoop still keep that vibe? So even when his personal world was falling apart, he still showed up, smiling, joking, and keeping that signature calm alive. The truth is, no one saw the man behind the legend, because the industry doesn't just sell his music, it sells his peace. And even when that peace was completely shattered, the cameras kept rolling, and Snoop kept pretending everything was fine. And he might have just walked out of his daughter's hospital room, eyes red and heavy from nights without sleep, but the next morning, he was back on set, dark shades hiding everything behind that calm mask. He could have just heard the heartbreaking news about his brother, yet the following day he still had to show up for a commercial shoot, flashing that same famous smile Hollywood had turned into a symbol. It wasn't about pretending, it was about survival. Fame isn't just lights and applause, it's pressure, contracts, and the weight of dozens of people depending on one man to keep it all together. Every time Snoop hurts, it isn't just him that risks falling. It's an entire team, a full machine that runs on his name. That's why the public never sees Snoop Dogg break down. It's not because he's unbreakable, it's because he's mastered how to hide the cracks. Those sunglasses he wears, they're more than fashion, they're armor. They cover eyes that stay red from stress, sleepless nights, or the tears he's forced to wipe away before stepping into the spotlight. That cool half smile everyone loves, it's not just style, it's protection. Because the second he drops it, the world starts whispering, "What's wrong with Snoop?" So he keeps doing what the cameras expect, delivering that signature joke, keeping that relaxed tone, holding up the image that everyone needs to see, not because he wants to play a part, but because it's the only way to keep the line steady between Snoop Dogg, the legend, and Calvin, the man trying not to collapse behind him, the man trying not to fall apart. That's the side no one ever sees. The title, Coolest Man Alive, sounds like praise, but for Snoop, it's more like a sweet curse. The cooler he looks, the more people assume he's fine, the more effortless he seems, the more the world forgets that Calvin, the boy from Long Beach, is still alive inside him, carrying the same scars, fears, and memories that never really healed. Being cool turned him into an icon, but it also took something away, the right to be vulnerable. Beneath the charm and calm voice is still a man who worries like any father, who grieves like any brother, who feels pressure like any provider trying to hold everything together. Then came 2024, the year that shattered the illusion. 2 back-to-back blows hit him out of nowhere. His daughter fighting for her life and his brother gone without warning. Those moments didn't just break his heart, they made the mask of Snoop Dogg feel unbearably heavy. People asked, why is he still smiling through all this? But they didn't realize that smile was survival. Because if he ever stopped laughing, the collapse would be too real, too public, too painful to face. It was a quiet kind of tragedy that only the ones who followed him for decades could sense. The weight behind the grin, the silence behind the jokes. Snoop Dogg, the man America put on a pedestal of endless chill, was never allowed to show sadness like everyone else. He became the laughter everyone leaned on, even when his own world was breaking. Yet from that cliff of exhaustion and grief, something unexpected began to happen. Something that would change the way he faced life forever. When you're standing at the edge between total collapse and having to keep pretending everything's fine, there are only 2 options: give up or change. And even at 54, after surviving everything life could throw at him, Snoop chose to change. People see him as the happy legend, the chill, funny icon who can light up any room with one joke. But the truth is, that very image has become his heaviest mask. When America calls him Uncle of Hip Hop or the coolest man alive, they don't realize those titles come with chains. They make him someone who's not allowed to tremble, stumble, or even sigh. Behind that famous grin isn't just Snoop Dogg, the brand loved by millions. It's Calvin Broadus, the man trying to hold his family together while living under the blinding lights of Hollywood. To the world, Snoop is an asset, a national treasure worth protecting. But Calvin's sadness, fatigue, and fear, those are luxuries he isn't allowed to show. In interviews, he still leans back, cracks jokes, and gets the crowd laughing. But if you look close, you'd notice his hands clenched tight under the table. The silent fight to stay calm when his heart is somewhere else. The cameras capture the tall man in sunglasses, smiling like everything's smooth, but that's only half the story. The other half happens long after the applause fades. Him sitting alone in a hotel room at 3 a.m., contracts waiting to be signed, shows lined up, fans expecting the same energy, but his mind and heart are still stuck in the hospital where his daughter is fighting to breathe and his family is holding on just like he is. Most people think Snoop is chill because that's just who he is. But no, he's chill because the contract demands it. The sponsors expect it. A sad Snoop Dogg isn't good for business, and one-off moment could crash an entire campaign. That's the dark side of being a legend. The cooler your image, the less room you have to be human. The title, Coolest Man Alive, sounds powerful, but to him, it feels like a quiet curse. When people see you as untouchable, they stop believing you can hurt. When you're always the one making everyone else laugh, nobody stops to ask if you're okay. America got so used to Snoop dropping jokes, turning every room into a party, that they could never picture Calvin, the man behind the smile, shaking from grief, worn down by sleepless nights and fighting to keep it together between laughter and tears. Maybe the cruelest thing about fame isn't the spotlight itself, but the fact that you have to live under it, even when all you want is a second in the dark to breathe. Snoop's been standing under that light for decades, since the 1996 trial that almost ended his career, all the way to the heartbreaks of 2024. But those years didn't destroy him, they changed him. The man who once rapped about the streets and glorified danger started speaking about peace, love, and forgiveness. He began using his voice to remind people to hold on to their families before it's too late. Snoop stopped chasing the idea of being invincible. Instead, he began showing that real strength comes from surviving, healing, and choosing to change when life tries to break you again and again. After 1996, Snoop started shifting his path, but it wasn't until he nearly lost his daughter and his brother that the change became real. Not a promise, but a mission. It wasn't Snoop Dogg who made that choice. It was Calvin Broadus, the man who swore he wouldn't let violence, hate, or fame destroy what little family he had left. People once said his gospel or reggae phases were just image tricks, but if you look deeper, you'll see something else. They were therapy. Music had always been his medicine, but now it became his healing. Between sold-out shows, flights, and flashing lights, Calvin found calm not in fame, but in soft rhythms, in the quiet hum of a church organ, and in silent prayers he never shared with the world. Rap had helped him survive the streets of Long Beach, but faith helped him survive his 50s. Pain became his greatest teacher, teaching him lessons fame never could. He realized life's too short to waste on grudges. After losing so many people he loved, he started to see things differently. Every goodbye reminded him, I don't have as much time as I thought. So he began to make peace with rivals, with old friends, even with himself. He stopped letting ego steer his life and started focusing on what really matters: love, forgiveness, and growth. To outsiders, it looked like maturity, but to Calvin, it was survival, a way to protect what was left of his heart. That's why Snoop evolved from survivor to mentor. Now, when he steps into younger artists' studios, he's not showing off. He's warning them that fame can lift you high, but it can also eat you alive if you forget who you are underneath the spotlight. And he started speaking truth to the younger generation, telling them about the traps hidden behind fame. He warned them about shady contracts that look good on paper but steal your soul, about fast money that disappears even faster, and about how some friends switch up the moment your name hits the spotlight. And every bit of that wisdom didn't come from books. It came from tears, from heartbreak, from living through losses most people couldn't survive. That was the real turning point. The moment Calvin Broadus stopped being the kid running from gang life and became the guide leading others away from it. The same man who was once labeled a danger to America had turned into someone parents now trust to talk to their kids about respect, family, and staying grounded. That's the kind of transformation only people who've truly hit rock bottom can understand. Behind the fame, the pain, and all the expectations, Snoop Dogg at 54 doesn't chase Grammys, charts, or records anymore. What drives him now is simpler, but so much deeper. He wants to know if his words, his story, or his music can make someone else's life just a little less painful. And maybe that's the real mark of greatness. Not how many awards you win, but how many hearts you heal along the way. For a man who once lived in the darkness to now bring light to others, that's his true legacy. Because in the end, Snoop didn't just change for himself, he changed so others wouldn't have to break the same way he once did. That transformation became the force that pushed Snoop forward and built a legacy far greater than any golden trophy Hollywood could ever hand him. Legacy of pain. After more than 30 years under the spotlight, the world still sees the same image. Snoop Dogg, the untouchable icon, half smile on his face, turning every move into a cultural moment. But behind the viral dances and million-view clips lies something the cameras never show: a broken childhood and old wounds that never truly healed, even at 54. The wild part is that those same pains, the struggles that once almost destroyed him, are now the foundation of something real, something powerful. Since 2005, Snoop's been quietly building a legacy no other rapper of his era can match: the Snoop Youth Football League. What began with just a few hundred kids from inner-city neighborhoods has grown into a lifeline for over 60,000 young people, giving them an escape from the same streets that once trapped him. This isn't some flashy celebrity charity move. This is personal. For Snoop, it's how he pays back his own childhood debt. Every dollar, every hour, every speech is him fixing the years when he didn't have guidance, when the streets were his only teacher. There are no stage photo ops, no viral hashtags, just a quiet promise he repeats to every kid: I got lost once, you won't. And that mission didn't stop there. He went even further with programs like Special Stars, giving kids with disabilities the same chance to feel seen, supported, and celebrated. For Snoop, that's the real reward. Not fame, not awards, but seeing a new generation grow up safe, strong, and full of hope because someone finally refused to give up on them. It all came from a place of deep personal pain. His daughter, Corey, who had battled lupus since she was little, faced depression, endless medication, and morning so heavy she couldn't even get out of bed. Snoop knew that helpless fear, watching someone you love grow weaker while you can't do anything to stop it. That feeling inspired him to build something powerful, a space for kids society too often overlooks. Kids fighting battles no one else can see. He couldn't take away his daughter's illness, but he could make sure children like her had a place to belong, a place to shine. And in one of life's wildest twists, the same man once seen as a dangerous icon of the 90s became a national treasure, carrying the Olympic torch at the 2024 Paris Games. From hiding in safe houses during his early fame to walking proudly before millions, that's not a comeback story, that's a survival story. As he crip walked through Paris with a calm, humble smile, both athletes and fans felt the warmth that only comes from someone who's been through the storm and made it out stronger. At 54, Snoop is softer, slower, and more peaceful. His voice now carrying the calm of someone who's faced every kind of pain and learned how to turn it into love. He no longer runs from his past, and he doesn't hide it either. He uses it to guide others, to teach forgiveness, and to make sure the next generation walks safer roads than he ever did. Tragedy shaped him, but it didn't break him. It taught him to choose kindness over anger, healing over hate. And maybe that's why Snoop Dogg's story, no matter how heartbreaking, is also deeply human. A man who lost so much, yet still stands up to protect others. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.